a bit of a long program today leading up to the signing of the framework agreement on the Bangsamoro. It began with an invocation by Sheikh Abu Huraira Abdul Rahman and Father Antonio Ledesma of the Society of Jesus. And Ging Delis, presidential advisor in the peace process, spoke. She did get quite emotional when she talked about how young people in Mindanao, in conflict areas in Mindanao, are so affected by the war, or the wars, more correctly, that had been going on there for decades. And she said that it will be better tomorrow. This is one of her more memorable lines. After Ging Delis spoke, it was Al-Haj Murad's turn, and he spoke about how he never thought in his wildest imagination that he would be stepping inside Malacañan Palace and seeing the interior, the insides of Malacañan Palace on this, like he said, this very historic day. And he said that they felt, the MILF leadership felt that this negotiated political settlement is the most civilized and practical way to solve the problem. He did say that there were 3 all-out wars in years 2000, 2003, and 2008. And of course, after that, a few years later, after President Benigno Aquino came to power, he did meet in August 2011 with them in Japan. The Malaysian Prime Minister Najib Razak also spoke, and he began by saying these words. He said, and I quote, "Today is a day of great hope." And he talked about how the choice was made for peace over conflict and stability over chaos. He ended with this very memorable line, I think, when he said, after so many decades, peace is within reach. Let us grasp it with both hands and never let go. President Aquino spoke after that, and he said, he began with the words, "Today we commit to peace." He talked about his meeting with Murad in Japan in August 2011, and he said that he approached that meeting as a, quote, fellow Filipino, and he acknowledged that there was plenty of speculation and plenty of criticism of that meeting. He also did say that he thanked everyone who had been involved in the negotiation process, and he did say that he would be thanking in advance those who had to work doubly hard to make sure that the agreement did work. And after that, speech by President Aquino, there was that historic signing of the draft of the framework agreement on the Bangsamoro by Mohagher Iqbal, the chair of the negotiating panel of the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, and Marvic Leonen, the chair of the government peace panel. They signed those documents to cheers from the audience, from people in Rizal Hall in Malacañang. We're going now first to just right outside Malacañang to Mendiola, where supporters of the peace agreement converged. Joyce Silas joins us on the line from there. Joyce?
Yes, Pia, hundreds of Mindanaoans here in Mendiola, outside Malacañang, cheered and clapped their hands upon hearing that the framework agreement has been signed already. After the cheers, they also offered a prayer of thanksgiving to Allah. Pia, most of these Mindanaoans traveled by land and sea for more than 2 days just to be here today to show their support to the signing of the framework agreement that will create the Bangsamoro entity. The mood here in Mendiola has been very festive since the program started at 10 in the morning today. Mindanaoans have been singing, dancing, and chanting praises to Allah for this historical day. Anak Mindanao spokesperson Narhaya Magkusang believes that the Bangsamoro entity will stop the decades-long war in Mindanao and pave way to lasting peace. This is why she calls on everyone to be optimistic and support the Bangsamoro entity and to defend it from those who only want to cause chaos in Mindanao. Magkusang believes that Bangsamoro will respect the Sharia and to stop the problems caused by Ridong or clan war. But she also calls on the government that all stakeholders should be included in the process of creating the Bangsamoro entity. Pia, more than 100 indigenous peoples are also here in Mendiola today. Deputy Regional Governor for Indigenous People in ARNM Hilario Tanzo says they believe that the Bangsamoro entity will protect their ancestral domains, territory, and resources. Tanzo hopes the Bangsamoro will also pave way to the creation of tribal courts, which will implement the customs, traditions, and laws of the indigenous peoples. He also hopes that the Bangsamoro will provide for the equal sharing of benefits from the government to the people of Mindanao, including the indigenous peoples. Pia, after the signing, Mindanaoan leaders who witnessed the signing are expected to join the program here outside Malacañang. A Bodil feast will also be done to symbolize Thanksgiving. Now, Pia, despite the hundreds of people here outside Malacañang, police presence is very low in the perimeters outside Malacañang. Pia?
Thank you, Joyce Ilas, reporting from Mendiola, just right outside Malacañan Palace, where many people have converged in support of the framework agreement on the Bangsamoro that has just been signed in Rizal Hall in Malacañang Palace. The signing by Mohagher Iqbal, the chair of the Moro Islamic Liberation Front negotiating panel, and Dean Marvic Leonen, the chair of the government peace panel. Many observers tweeting about it and commenting during the entire program was saying how low-key and how humble Dean Leonen, who you see on your screens right now, just a while ago then, just a few seconds ago, preferred to just sit in the back very quietly and not try to take any of the limelight away from any of the people who were speaking. The signing, of course, witnessed by President Aquino, President Aquino, and Malaysian Prime Minister Najib Razak, who himself gave a very, very inspiring and inspired speech during the ceremony and also during the luncheon right before the ceremony, right before the framework agreement was signed. We have on the line right now Dr. Renato Oliveros. He's an international studies professor at the Ateneo de Manila. Good afternoon, sir. Thank you for joining us. Dr. Oliveros, we're going to try and get Dr. Oliveros back in a little while. We understand that Dr. Oliveros was monitoring the developments in Malacañang, and he does have quite a lot to say about this very historic development. The framework agreement on the Bangsamoro was just signed by Dean Marvic Leonen, chair of the government peace panel, and Mohagher Iqbal, chairman of the MILF peace panel, witnessed by President Aquino, Malaysian Prime Minister Najib Razak, Secretary Ginkin Dos Deles, and also an official from the organization. It's no longer Organization of Islamic Conference, but the, let me get my notes in a while. All right, let's go to Dr. Renato Oliveros, International Studies Professor at the Ateneo. Good afternoon, sir.
Hi, good afternoon, Pia. Okay, it's Islamic Studies at Ateneo.
I'm sorry, Islamic Studies.
Yeah.
Of course, it should be. Well, Dr. Oliveros, I understand that you were monitoring this entire proceeding this afternoon. What are your first thoughts?
Okay, we've been waiting for this, especially the next generation of Filipinos. Okay, not only Filipinos but Muslim Filipinos. I think it's a good move for MILF and the Philippine government, even the MNLF. We're talking here of decades, and finally this roadmap to a peace agreement is a very positive move. And the great thing about this, it creates an image of the Philippines not only for Luzon, Visayas, but inclusive of IPs and Muslim Filipinos. So the Bangsamoro has really broadened. It has created a framework that would include all Filipinos. And I would call this is God's peace, or Allah's salam, wherein when we talk of peace, it includes development of the best that we can offer for every Filipino.
Okay, of course, when you say IPs, indigenous peoples,
Yes,
just to clarify,
exactly.
God's peace, Allah's salam.
Yeah, Allah's salam. This is when we talk in biblical terms. When we talk of God's peace, it brings in everything that is good that can be given to every citizen of this land.
Did you ever think that you would see a day like this, Dr. Oliveros?
This is historic. In fact, I've been a student of Islam for decades. This is historic. We're actually witnessing something like this. It's honestly, it's mind-blowing for me, because I pray for this, and many advocates for peace have been praying for this. And this idea of peace can be an example also to others that we can learn from our mistakes. But what we are moving here is wherein Filipinos and Christians or IPs can work within a framework wherein it's inclusive of all, not only exclusive to even Muslims or Christians. So the Bangsamoro is it's a move to the right direction. It's a framework wherein everyone can be called a Filipino, regardless of religious affiliation or ethnic background.
So, Dr. Oliveros, would you say that inclusive is the key word here?
Yes, it's inclusive and unitive.
Unitive.
It's really, I'm proud to be a Filipino. It's almost like, I may not be exaggerating, but it's almost like an EDSA feeling. Okay. It's an EDSA feeling wherein we can celebrate.
EDSA 86, no?
Yes,
Just to
EDSA
clarify.
86, wherein
Yes.
we are proud of being a Filipino today. And I think President Aquino, okay, he has done so much probably in a short time, but for me, this tops it all. This peace agreement is really his historic contribution to our nation.
It's interesting. My last question, Dr. Oliveros, before we let you go and before we end this coverage, special coverage, you talked about how this is mind-blowing for you and how this feels like EDSA 86
Yes.
all over again. I can't see you right now, but I can just sense in your voice that there's a little bit of emotion there.
Yes, exactly. I've been to EDSA, and when we talk of EDSA at times, we forget Mindanao and their own struggle, and for MILF to humble themselves and not even think of creating a separate state, and from their side is really wanting for peace. And I think they're no longer just thinking about themselves, their generation. They're thinking also for the younger Muslim Filipinos, the best that they can offer them. I think even the young Filipinos in Manila and Luzon, we want peace in Mindanao. It's the path to development.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Renato Oliveros, Islamic Studies, Ateneo de Manila. Maraming salamat po,
Walang
Dr.
anuman.
Oliveros.
Salamat din.
Thank you for joining us in this special coverage of the signing of the framework agreement between the government and the Moro Islamic Liberation Front. I'm Pia Hontiveros. Please stay tuned to our Solar News updates.